So I also wanted to talk about what it was like for me when I first found out that I had MS, because I think one of the most traumatic points in an MSer's life is the actual diagnosis, and maybe a year afterwards. Sometimes, with some people it doesn't quite hit right away. But the kind of symptoms that I had involved a lot of double vision, hallucinations, obviously, bumping into things, tripping on the street quite a lot. And all these things for me added up to two options. Either I had a tumor or I had MS. And it was like in a span of, I would say, 5 months that all these symptoms started. And my life was a bit mad at the time. I had to go on a business trip to Paris, and I had an eye patch on, and it was just so surreal. I mean, I would sit at these business meetings, and my French is not that great, so we had these little headphones on that the gentleman in front would be speaking, and we'd have this headset translating to English. At the same time, I felt like champagne bubbles were exploding in my head, and if I took the patch off, then there was two of this man talking. Could your twin please move to the side? Everything was just, flying into each other. It was so crazy. And I just remember sitting there with this headset thing in my ear, and I was like, what the hell is happening to me? I think I am dying. It was crazy. I mean, it's funny now. At times I laughed, and at times I didn't. Actually, on that trip, I also had an experience. I don't know if anyone else has had this, where you don't sense where your mouth is. So I was at a dinner in this very swank restaurant called Cafe Marley. If you're in Paris, you must go to it. It's all red walls like my living room, but candlelit and really, really chic. And I was sitting there eating, and as I went to take a bite, I realized I couldn't sense where my mouth was. And it's something that had happened to me a few weeks before that, where I was sitting with a friend, and I went to take a bite and I smeared it on my face. So being that I was at a dinner with colleagues and my bosses, I really didn't feel like that would be appropriate behavior, and I started to panic. So I lifted. So I did a second bite like that, and then I said, you know what, fuck it. I cannot function like this. I can't sit through a whole dinner thinking about my fork. So instead, I had some champagne, and I lit up a couple of cigarettes, which I don't usually smoke actually, but in Paris I do sometimes, and don't ask me why, that's true. And I just smoked and drank champagne, and I had a really great time. That's really true. That's what happened. So anyway, I got back to London, and I knew through research and as the MRI was done, and as they were asking me more questions at the hospital, and I started to know on my own, they're looking for either MS or they're looking for this type of pituitary tumor. So when I actually was diagnosed, I was with my husband and my cousin. When the doctor started reading the MRI results, and he said, you have lesions, blah, 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 and this is associated with multiple sclerosis, blah, blah. So as he said this, I heard my husband and cousin just this breath come out of their bodies. And for me, I felt this feeling of such relief. And it was only because I thought better something that I can try to fight than a tumor. So, it was surreal again. Everything is always surreal, right? We walked out of the hospital, and they said to me, my husband and my cousin, they were very gentle, what would you like to do now, Marlo? And I said, I think we should go to the pub and have a bloody drink. And then my husband said, oh my God, I don't think you should be drinking. Do you think it's good for the MS? And I said, at this point, what the hell does it matter? So we went to the pub and I had a gin and tonic. And that was within my first hour of knowing that I had MS. Now, I'm not condoning alcohol or alcoholism as a way of dealing with your problems. But the point is, you have to have a good time as well. So I just got on with it, and that is what I did right after.